facilities have been completely and totally obliterated. Iran, the bully of the Middle East, must now make peace. If they do not, future attacks will be far greater and a lot easier.
Peace and wellness, beautiful souls, magnificent beings. Allow us to jump right into this video and expose Donald J. Trump for being a puppet for the Israeli and Jewish lobby of America and the Israeli nation in and of itself. These things totally contradict what he ran on and why many of us voted for him. Allow us to listen to him further make a fool of himself.
Just how successful were those strikes? Can the U.S. keep from getting further involved? This morning, Iran says they'll respond and that the U.S. betrayed diplomacy. What's the threat to Americans, especially our troops serving in the Middle East? We'll talk with Secretary of State Marco Rubio, plus Virginia Democratic Senator Tim Kaine and two House members with very different political ideologies.
Let's jump right into it with Thomas Massie. Thomas Massie opposes these strikes that President Trump has carried out already, and he explains why. But also, let's take into consideration those of you who are old enough who know that George W. Bush pushed the same narrative as it preferred or referred to Iraq in order to escalate and go in and make war against Iraqi people, killing over 1 million of them, many American troops injured, killed, and mentally and emotionally scarred for life. War is not a joke. And this individual, Donald Trump, ran on the promise that he was America first, that he would clean out the deep state, he would wipe it out, and he would not engage in unnecessary foreign wars, especially on the benefit of another foreign nation. He condemns the Ukrainian war with Russia, rightfully so, but yet he has proven to be another puppet when it comes to all the puppets that are politicians that are in the pocket of Benjamin Netanyahu, the Jewish lobby, and Israel, the nation as a whole. Allow us to listen to Thomas Massie, all right? Here you go, right here.
Tired of wars in Eastern Europe. And we were promised that we would put our veterans, our immigration policies, and our infrastructure first. And so what Roe and I did, we did this last week when they were rattling the sabers because we saw this coming. We put forward this war powers resolution. Mm-hmm. I've teamed up with Ro Khanna before on this, to his credit. When Joe Biden was president, we tried to rein in the executive and reassert Congress's authority, sole authority, to declare war and to engage or authorize the engagement of acts of war.
And this is one of the key components that you and I must come to understand as American citizens. Again, the Constitution says that the war powers are given to Congress. But in these last 10, 15, 20 years, these presidents have come in and they've found a way to undermine the Constitution, undermine the war powers being granted by Congress, and they go ahead and engage in these wars. And again, they would not declare it as a war against Iran, but anytime you drop a bomb on any individual, any nation, you have committed an act of war. So don't get twisted with the sweet terminology that they choose to use, the well-crafted terminology that they use in order to try to lessen the effect of what's really going on. It is war. And Donald Trump said he would not get involved. But those who own Donald Trump and own 99.9% of these politicians, the Israeli lobby, AIPAC, Israel as a whole, those American Jews who funded Trump, they wanted this war. They pushed for this war. Israel is the bully of the Middle East. And again, no, I'm not out here championing Iran. Every nation has its issues. But the American politicians and the Israeli politicians and the American government and the Israeli government love to play the victim role when they're doing the most killing. Make that make sense. They dropping the most bombs of mass destruction on individuals. They sending the missiles in and destroying individuals. So how are you the victim? It is indeed all right to do if you are in immediate and danger. Iran is no danger to the America First movement, plain and simple. So allow Thomas Massie to break this down even more.
Something we talked to other lawmakers about as well in the Senate. I know there's efforts to support you, but the Speaker of the House, who is from your own party, has really rejected this. He says the Article 1 power of Congress really allows for the president to do this. It was a limited, necessary, targeted strike, he says.
Well, he's probably referring to the War Powers Act of 1973, but that's been misinterpreted. There was no imminent threat to the United States, which was what would authorize that. And I think that's peculiar to hear that from the Speaker of the House. Look, Congress was on vacation last week when all this was happening.
You haven't been briefed on any of the
We
details.
haven't been briefed. They should have called us all back. And frankly, we should have debated this War Powers resolution that Ro Khanna and I offered instead of staying on vacation and doing fundraisers and saying, oh, well, the president's got this under control. We're going to cede our constitutional authority.
Ro Khanna, Congressman Khanna, and we didn't hear from the secretary the explanation as to why now. We haven't heard that from anyone. Other than a reference to the president had a roughly 60-day timeline on diplomatic talks. But we also know we had more talks scheduled when Israel launched this attack. So it's not exactly clear the emergency. You will be briefed along with other members of Congress Tuesday. What are the questions you have?
Well, first of all, the tragedy in this country is that we keep entering these overseas wars. We triumphantly declare the mission is accomplished the day after, and then we're left with Americans bearing the consequences for decades.
He made a profound statement. Again, just ask George W. Bush when he was on that ship and declared that the mission was accomplished from the first day of those strikes in Iraq. And we saw that war last for 10, 20 years. And you saw and you see the destruction of that nation. It is not at peace. It is in shambles due to the fact that we went in and engaged in an aggressive war against individuals who had no ability to harm us. And this is what Ro Khanna is talking about. I'm not a fan of Ro Khanna on 99% of the stuff that he represents. He's a lefty. He has no problem with women and men's sports, to my knowledge. He believes in the LGBTQ agenda, pushing that to supersede the heterosexual agenda. Like I said before, you cannot have a surviving species with the predominant behavior of that species being homosexual, and you have every right to be homosexual. Homosexuality, that sexual act, can reproduce nothing. It can't reproduce life. Heterosexuality reproduces life. It is the only necessary act of engagement sexually that this species must engage in order to sustain and grow and perpetuate the species. I got off on a little bit of tangent there, but I had to get that out of my mouth. But again, Ro Khanna he's speaking some truth as well. We're gonna allow it to wrap up. I'll leave the link for this video in the
Now,
description.
Thomas is absolutely right in showing courage. I mean, the headlines all across this country says the United States enters war with Iran. He is actually representing a lot of the people in the Maga base, people like Steve Bannon, Tucker Carlson, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Theo Von, who has had them on, who's saying, we don't want this war. And I heard your interview with Secretary Rubio. He's saying, well, we want a peace deal. We want to make sure that Iran can enrich uranium through civil purposes. Well, we had that. We had that in the JCPOA, and there was not a single violation that the IAEA found during that time. So my question, I guess, is now you're going to force Iran to go covertly in developing this nuclear material. Now you've put American troops at risk. Now you're wasting billions of our dollars because we're sending more troops to the Middle East. What did you accomplish, and why are you oblivious?
Billions of dollars being spent overseas while over 650,000 Americans are homeless, and another large amount are hopeless and drug addicted. And we are sending money overseas to fund Israel to the tune of $4 billion annually now. And they've been the welfare recipient of the United States, our tax dollars, for 75 years. And these same conservatives who are pushing for this illegal war will condemn any individual on welfare as being lazy, being apathetic, not being willing to do the things necessary to grow, and reject their plea for assistance. But Israel gets an unfettered $4 billion a year for 75 years as the permanent welfare recipient of American tax dollars, while Israel does nothing to contribute to the benefit of the American society. They offer nothing to us. They have nothing we need. They do nothing to guarantee that we are getting a reciprocal handout of reciprocal return on our $4 billion a year investment. And again, this is because the Israel lobbyists, AIPAC, those Jewish Americans, and Benjamin Netanyahu own our politicians, and they own Donald Trump as well. It's a shameful day in America, especially because he ran as an individual who was not controlled by the deep state, who is American first, who doesn't believe in these foreign wars, but yet he goes and engages in it and still tries to justify it defiantly as something that he had to do, he needed to do. You did it because Israel demanded you do it, and those Jewish individuals that funded your campaign to the tune of $300 million, they wanted it done. The AIPAC Israeli lobbyists, they wanted it done, and Netanyahu wanted it done, and you did it. Israel cannot sustain itself without us propping it up, and yet Israel tells and dictates what it is that we do and what our government does with our tax money, and as it is related to Israel needs. Yes, it has to stop. Again, Donald Trump has betrayed us. I give him an A+ on the border, A+ on getting men out of women sports, A+ on knowing the difference between a biologically born male and female, A+ on the deportation, again, A+ on the border, and A+ on even the tariffs that he's trying to get in play in order to build and bring more money in. But he gets a resounding F on this foreign policy. And with that being the case, I can no longer support him as a valuable individual whose words mean something. He is bought and paid for just like 99.9% of these politicians. If you like the video, you get value from the commentary, please like and subscribe and comment, and know that I have a fitness channel that is called Monte's Fitness. The link will be in the description below. Again, have a beautiful day. Thanks for joining me. Sending you peace and always love. Peace.